And it just reminds me, man, and I can't help but get a little frustrated this morning because I want to read some statistics to you, and I'd like you to kind of respond to this. So 40.3 million people are in slavery today. $150 billion industry makes up for the human trafficking industry, and it makes it one of the most, if not the most, I know it probably changes from time to time, but it was the most lucrative illegal business in the world. And every 26 seconds, a child is sold, of which the common age of those children is around 14 to 16. And this is according to the Polaris Project, who put together all of these numbers. When I look at what is happening in our nation around police brutality, there's no doubt that there's bad apples. There's no doubt that there's people who need better training or whatnot. But it's just an objective reality that to say that we have a systemic racism problem in the police force does not bear witness to the numbers of what we're actually seeing in terms of like unarmed deaths of black people or whatever. And so I will stand with my brothers and sisters and cry out when I see injustice, but also I think it needs to be proportional. When I see what's going on in the human trafficking industry, and then just to be totally honest, bro, when I see pastors who have never said anything about sex trafficking, human trafficking, have never said anything about the abortion industry and the abortion lobby, but then have jumped on quickly to the BLM bandwagon, it makes me a little frustrated that we don't hear the outcry that we should about human trafficking. So I'm wondering about how you feel about maybe that specifically, but also being in the thick of, I mean, this is perhaps in a sense why you started what you started and why you're in Thailand is you're right there in the thick of what is probably one of the hotbeds for human trafficking, sex trafficking especially. How does it make you feel that sometimes we're missing the conversation here on where real slavery is happening in our modern day?
Yeah, yeah, man, it can be pretty frustrating. Um, because like I always say this, if you want to see true systemic racism, if you want to see racism and at its core, man, come to Southeast Asia, come to different parts of the world. You will see actual racism happen. Like hill tribes are make up a good majority of the kids that are trafficked here in Southeast Asia, right? Kids who are um, from the mountains, right? That are not, a lot of them are stateless. Like half of my kids are stateless. They're not Thai, they're not Burmese, they're not, they're stateless. They're just Aka or Oahu, they're the hill tribes. And to see the actual racism where they can't, they're not a actual, in the government's eyes and in the people's eyes, they're less than everybody else. They are like almost like the untouchables in India almost. They are just very much actively discriminated against in a lot of ways. Like you walk into they can walk into the government office when they help us do things, or they're just with us when we go to the visa office or all these things, and you should hear the things that are said to them. So anyway, I said that to say is that that's where, if you want to see actual systemic racism, go outside of America, because it's not there. It's not there in America. It's everywhere else. America is like the bastion of unity when you go to different, once you get outside of.
Yeah, in comparison to these other countries, for sure.
Exactly. And so it really it breaks my heart to see that, to see people so wrapped up in a false narrative, a just being race baiting people, trying to stir up things instead of going, okay, let's celebrate what we actually have, the unity we actually have. And then but also to say, um, there's more slaves now than there ever was in history. It's more slaves when the Civil War was fought. It's more slaves now than ever, and people are so wrapped up in perceived racism than actually going and saying, "Oh, this actually still happens." There's classes and groups of people who are being exploited, who are being enslaved, just simply because they can, and are they less than in everybody's eyes, and so yeah, it's pretty frustrating when you see that happen, and you see, especially you see, pastors in churches that jump on the BLM movement, and just it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah. And just to be clear, like, okay, so if and I think I said this, but if so, jump on the BLM bandwagon, but you also have to say, is that to win social credit points, or is that to actually really truly do the work? And I guess that's what I mean is like, is you're right there in the thick of it doing the work to truly help combat real slavery that is in the large part, I guess, maybe this is not right. I don't want to be careful because I don't want to miss the statistics, but targeting children, and targeting adults as well, to be sure. But certainly there's a contingent of people that are out there specifically targeting kids to go after them for sexual abuse and for forced labor and those kind of things. And I'm sure you've seen that in what you've done.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's something that goes on every day. I mean, that's literally why we're here. And there's literally why organizations that we partner with exist, is just to fight child trafficking and child exploitation.
Catch new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman for free right now by going to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Simply type Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman in the search bar and click on my face. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to stay informed when a new episode drops.